You saw that there was something that I was trying to do, and you figured that out. That's why you are who you are. God bless you. I'm gift.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I really don't.
Yes, you do.
Psychiatrist Billy Crystal not only has a gift, he also has a client that he doesn't want, mob boss Robert De Niro. In the comedy, Analyze This. De Niro has what they used to call the shakes, and what they now call panic attacks. In seeking to deal with this problem, De Niro uses the same no-nonsense approach that has, well, kept him in the mob business so long.
When I get back to New York, I will treat you exclusively, okay? For 2 weeks. I just have to figure out what I'm going to tell my other patients.
You want me to clear your schedule for you?
Oh, no.
I would be my honor. My pleasure.
No.
Jimmy!
No, not Jimmy. I will do this myself.
De Niro's insistence slams into Crystal's life like a Justice Department subpoena. He ruins Crystal's wedding to a TV correspondent, played by Lisa Kudrow, who's just as willful as De Niro.
How could you do that?
Another country heard from.
Gotta go. Maybe we should wait downstairs.
Why? Are they going to throw me off the balcony, too?
You're upset, and you're upsetting me.
Well, of course I'm upset. My wedding is ruined because you've got problems.
Finally, Crystal gets to exert some influence over De Niro. He instructs De Niro to get in touch with his feelings during a phone call to a puzzled mob rival, played by a bullish Chaz Palminteri.
I'm very angry. I'm feeling very angry about that. I'm really I'm enraged. I'm feeling very, very mad about that.
Yeah, so why are you telling me?
Why am I telling you? Like you don't know nothing about it? Huh?
I don't know what
you don't know nothing. What?
It's polished and everything fits neatly into place, but it's all too predictable. It's like De Niro's doing an impression of Alec Baldwin's impersonation of De Niro from Saturday Night Live. And Billy Crystal has gone from being in a Woody Allen movie to playing Woody Allen. Analyze This congratulates you for keeping up with his safeness. I didn't much like it.
Oh, come on.
Where are we going?
It was fun. It was fun. De Niro, I think you're being very unfair to De Niro. I think that's kind of a glib line about him doing Saturday Night Live, because what De Niro is doing here, I think, is basically playing the guy more or less as he would play him in a regular movie. He's not adding a lot of level of satire. He's just kind of sincerely looking at this shrink and trying to deal with the fact that his whole world has collapsed inside of him. I think that De Niro gets the laughs by playing it straight.
Okay, here's what I think, because this is why I'm here. I think that De Niro's been doing this for so long, it feels like parody now. I mean, what felt like really original, inventive explosiveness is now kind of this hollow, predictable, dynamic stuff. And that's why it feels like he's doing it.
So what's he supposed to do, retire?
Well, he's actually more fun to watch when he's not doing this kind of stuff, when he's doing like a thing like he did in Jackie Brown, where he doesn't have the weight of the entire movie on him. I think it kind of works in this case.
I think you've got to have a De Niro to play this character. I mean, you can't just take an actor who isn't identified with mob movies and make it funny, because he has to bring to his relationship with Crystal some of the baggage of his other films.
Well, I think the movie actually, that's part of the joke, unfortunately. That's why I think the movie's kind of playing it safe, and that we're all in on this joke. He's been doing it for so long now. I mean, even the movies you could barely sit through, like Casino, that you might as well make fun of it. And Crystal actually comes off better because he's playing it from the outside. So you'll have that same level of sort of free song. You're not feeling bad for him the way you feel.
Crystal's very good. And what about the big guy, Jelly, played by Joseph Vitarelli, who's kind of De Niro's bag holder? I thought that he was really good as a supporting actor.
The movie gets its laughs, but I think it's a glib, cheap comedy, and there's a much better version of this playing on HBO now, as you know, The Sopranos, which actually happens to be smart and about emotional involvement in a way this movie is not.
Okay, next movie. Our next film is a science fiction potboiler named Wing Commander. During the same week when the director of 2001 has died, I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on this recycled video game. Checky Cario commands a ship approaching a space-time vortex. Matthew Lillard is the hotshot pilot who doesn't think they can jump it, but Freddie Prinze Jr., whose father was a member of a spacefaring race, thinks he instinctively knows how to.
10 seconds to jump, sir. So if you don't get that computer back online, sir, this unstable gravity well is gonna suck us in one molecule at a time, sir.
Prinze is likable here, but it's a lost cause. The two men end up on a much larger battleship where the pilots are commanded by the beautiful Saffron Burrows.
Man, Lieutenant Hunter was just helping Marshall and I feel at home.
And Jürgen Prochnow plays the commander of the ship, which wages war with enemy aliens.
Fire troops 1 and 2.
You may remember Jürgen Prochnow there was the captain of the submarine in Das Boot, and no wonder he turns up again here, because Wing Commander is essentially a Navy movie set in the vast sea of space. It has all the cliches of naval battles, including battleships firing broadsides at each other and nervous submarine crews listening for the sounds of big destroyers overhead. We even hear ping, ping on the soundtrack, even though sound doesn't travel in space. What this movie doesn't have is characters I cared about, a plot worth bothering about, or battle scenes that were anything more than video game target practice.
Yeah, you know, in space, no one can hear you leave. You know, it reminded me of the part of the video game you scroll past in order to get to the real game. And what's amazing about it is that it's essentially a ripoff of Star Wars, because it's a Star Wars video game. So it's Star Wars fakeness.
Star Wars, with the difference that Star Wars is about people and about myth, and this movie is about real dumb people, and they just shoot at each other. Coming up next, our video pick of the week is a tribute to the late, great Stanley Kubrick.
Dr. Strangelove, do we have anything like that in the works?
A moment, please, Mr. President.
Siskel and Ebert's Video Pick of the Week is brought to you by Nestle Raisinets. At the movies or at home, Raisinets.
There died in England last Sunday one of the great free spirits of the movies, Stanley Kubrick. For the last 35 years, since the success of Dr. Strangelove, he marched to the sound of his own drum, making the movies he wanted to make, the way he wanted to make them, in his own good time. He made at least 4 films that are generally considered masterpieces, and one at least that will live as long as people project images onto screens. That one would be 2001: A Space Odyssey, the great visionary 1968 film about Man the Toolmaker, which begins with the first tool using apes, and then continues with the tools that would allow us to escape even the planet of our birth. Another of his widely hailed works is A Clockwork Orange, a film I've never admired as much as most people do. Its images have entered into the general imagination, though, especially Malcolm McDowell as a violent vandal being brainwashed into harmlessness.
You've proved to me that all this ultra-violence and killing is wrong and terribly wrong.
And, of course, Dr. Strangelove is among the great sardonic screen comedies. Said at the height of the Cold War, it made dark comedy out of the possibility of nuclear war. Kubrick's other great anti-war film was Paths of Glory in 1957, with Kirk Douglas as a French lawyer who finds himself commanding an infantry regiment in the brutal trench warfare of World War I. Stanley Kubrick was one of a kind, a towering figure who made films almost by hand, burnishing every detail like a loving craftsman. At the time of his death, he had just finished the erotic thriller Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. It opens this summer.
You know, one of the things people forget about Kubrick is that he made these movies, the very early ones like The Killing, were real close to the ground thrillers that had a lot of emotional weight to them and were film art in not a heavy, portentous way. And Matt, you think back to the movie we talked about earlier, Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, it probably lifts a lot from this movie about an elaborate racetrack theft that doesn't quite work out.
You know, in a way, in the late 40s, with movies like Fear and Desire, which he kind of suppressed, and The Killing, he was sort of like the Scorsese of that time. He financed those movies himself. He made them real close to the ground, like you said. He was operating outside the studio system at a time when that simply wasn't done, and he has always operated completely as a lone wolf.
He's a real independent, too, and he's really changed the face of movie history. I mean, one of the things about Clockwork Orange, a movie that actually has a great performance, Malcolm McDowell, maybe the last great performance in a Kubrick film, basically ended adult movies in this country because newspapers stopped taking ads because that movie is so controversial and violent and combined violence and sex in an unusual way, I think.
Well, The Killing and all of the other titles we mentioned are available on home video, on tape, and disc, and there are video picks of the week. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. Neither of us liked The Deep End of the Ocean, the kidnapped child tearjerker that lost track of its real story. We split on Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I enjoyed this high-spirited British crime comedy. Elvis wanted to like it, but found it too splashy. Another split decision on Cruel Intentions. We both thought it was like teenagers playing dress-up, but I was amused, and Elvis was indifferent. We split again on Harold Ramis's comedy Analyze This. I thought Robert De Niro was a lot of fun as a mobster in Therapy, but Elvis thought De Niro was just recycling old material. And finally, we both really despised Wing Commander, which is based on a video game. We kept wanting to push a button and blast it off the screen, but Elvis, that's how you felt about almost every movie this week. So out of voting thumbs down on 5 movies, if they had to choose one of them, which one should they pick?
I'm feeling pretty good about this, actually. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. It shows some technique. It's got some real energy and a kind of this pop opportunism that's a lot of fun. It's proud to be superficial, not unlike me.
Okay, well, in that case, I agree with you on that, but I also think Analyze This is worth seeing, and for that matter, Cruel Intentions. Remember, you can hear our reviews on the web at Siskel-Ebert.com, and next week we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including True Crime, starring Clint Eastwood as a journalist fighting to free a death row convict.
Did you kill that woman or not?
Also, Forces of Nature, a romantic comedy starring Ben Affleck and Sandra Bullock. And thanks a lot, Elvis, for being here on the balcony this week. It was a lot of fun.
It's good to be here, Roger. Thank you. And until next week, the balcony is closed.